I need to do a fitting. I don't have a fitting buddy. So I'm gonna be fitting myself. That's so hard. What do I do? Well, today for Tricky Thursday, I'm sharing my top 3 tips on how to fit yourself. Let's get into it. Hello and welcome back to my channel, or if it's your first time here, thanks for stopping in. My name is Trisha, your pattern nerd friend. I am here to share with you all about what I know about fitting, sewing, and pattern making, anything in between. So if you like this kind of content, please hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications, and share this content with your friends that you think will find helpful. All of that really helps my channel to grow, and it helps me to keep making these videos, especially on topics that you really find helpful and interesting. Today, we're going to be talking about how to fit yourself. Now, I am in this boat a lot, and just for context, my knowledge comes from 20 plus years working in the entertainment industry, making costumes for big theatrical productions. So I have fit a wide range of sizes, all shapes and sizes, in all kinds of crazy costumes. But when it comes to when I'm working on something for myself, I'm oftentimes doing it in the middle of the night when I have time by myself. All of these tips I'm going to share with you, they are tips that I use myself to do fittings on myself. And they're things that I have found to be the most helpful when I am doing a fitting on myself. It's so much easier to fit on someone else because you can get at every angle with them. You know, you don't have to contort yourself and your body to make an adjustment. Like, you might see something that needs to change, but then getting to that thing and pinning it so that you have the information for later, that can be a challenging task. So the number one thing that I say, and this is going to be kind of annoying, especially if you do mock-ups like I do, but I have some pointers on that too, is to get in and out of your garment easily. Don't try to do it all when you're still wearing the garment, because that's going to make it a lot harder. So if you notice something that needs to change in the back, maybe you take it off, you kind of do what you need to do, like maybe set a pin there or something like that, and then take off the garment and then try to pin it as neatly as possible and then put the garment back on. It may be your answer, it may not be your answer, but that's gonna be a more accurate pin than you trying to contort yourself and putting a pin in it. Now, if you do mock-ups like I usually suggest, down and dirty is how my mock-ups are. Why? Because it does save me time, because I'm finding out answers that I need to know, so when I get to my final garment, I'll be ready. But it makes it harder to get in and out of because you're pinning yourself in. So if you're gonna have to take it off, you're gonna have to undo all these pins and then pin yourself, and then pin whatever the alteration is you think you need, and then pin yourself back into it. It could be quite exhausting and make the whole thing a lot harder. So if you think it's gonna be something that you're gonna need to spend some time in, that you're gonna have a lot of adjustments in the back, if it's like a big back detail thing, you might want to put a quick zipper in or something that's really easy to get in and out. And even if it's a final garment and you just want to baste a zipper in, it's really simple. The great thing about doing mock-ups is that it doesn't have to be perfect. The sewing can be messy. Like, what you're really looking at, I mean, it can't be so off that from what the final thing's going to be, but it can be not perfect, right? So even if you're doing a final garment, if you want to just baste a zipper in, and that makes the getting in and getting out process, that makes it a lot easier. The other thing with that is, if you have the opportunity to, so when I suggest that my students start fitting their slopers, their bodice and their skirt is usually what I have them start with, or a bodice and a pant, then I don't usually have them put a zipper in that, but that would be a case where you could easily baste a zipper in. But one thing I do suggest is you switch, because it's a sloper, right? And it doesn't really matter where the opening is, because the design, it's not a design, it's just a basic shape. I usually tell them to put the opening in the front. So that way you can put it on yourself, you can pin it in place, and you're not having to have somebody else pin it in for you if it's a garment that, you know, it closes in the back. And if it does close in the back, the zipper is going to be the easier way to go. And on that note, I want to show you something snazzy about putting a zipper, especially if it's in the back. So this is a zipper that I actually just recently used on a dress that I was making. Whenever I get the chance, this is my favorite kind of zipper, just as an aside. It's a number 5 plastic molded zipper separating. And notice it's super long. Usually I don't need it to be this long, but sometimes I do. So I like to get them when I can in various colors so that I have them on hand. And when you're doing it for a mock-up, even if you only need this long of a zipper, only sew that much of the zipper, but then leave the rest of it to do whatever you want. You're just gonna ignore that zipper. So that's a great thing. But I actually basted this because I was building a dress that had to have the opening in the back and I wanted to test it out. That's where this thing comes in. This is like an extra long zipper pull. This kind of comes from wetsuits. Wetsuits do the same thing because they often have that zipper in the back as well. So if this zipper was attached at my back and I had that pull, see how I can pull that and it pulls the zipper down? Same thing going back up. Now, this isn't really gonna work because it's not sewn in, but you pull it up and you can zip it up like that. All this is I took some extra twill tape. It could be string, ribbon, anything you have lying around. I put it through the zipper pull, gave myself a long lead, and then tied it again. So that is a great tip for putting zippers into the back of your garment and making it easier to get in and out of, because taking it on and off is my number 1 tip for helping to fit yourself. Tip number 2 is, are you ready? If you haven't guessed, to take pictures. Now, having another mirror, having 2 mirrors, 3 mirrors is actually really helpful, especially if you're fitting yourself. I have never really had that luxury, if I'm completely honest, of maybe a few times in my life, but at home, I just have one full-length mirror if I'm lucky. Most of us have our cell phones handy all the time. And I suggest taking pictures because, especially in the back, because if you take a picture while you're holding your phone, you're like this, or if you're trying to look in the mirror, you're twisting, you're turning, and you can't really get a clear idea of what is happening back there. And so if you can set up your phone on, either a stand or a tripod, if you have something like that, or just lean it up against something heavy, a bookshelf, put it on something so that it's standing there, and turn on your timer. If you're not sure how to use the timer in your picture settings, you can probably Google it for the kind of phone that you have. But pretty much every phone nowadays has timer settings. Usually it's 3 or 10 seconds, and you set that timer. You stand how you need to stand. So if you're going to do the front, stand there very calm and relaxed. You don't need to be rigid, but calm and relaxed. Push the button and then get ready. Let it take the picture, and then turn to the side, do the same thing, and the same thing with the back. So you probably need the 10 seconds for the back. But that is the most valuable thing. And it's especially helpful to, first of all, see what is going on. But when you do the fitting and you've taken all the pins and you figured out all the information, then you're getting, maybe days later, maybe later on that day, if you're lucky, you're getting into those adjustments that need to happen. And you might go, gosh, was it really as tight as I pinned it? I mean, did I pin it too tight, or what was that? What did that look like again? And it really helps you to remember what happened in the fitting. So taking pictures is super valuable. This is also good for even if you're fitting someone else, especially if you're fitting someone else, you have that opportunity. And then you don't have that opportunity to see them again until your garment is finished. This really helps. Having those pictures when you're doing the adjustments and while you're sewing things together really helps. The third tip that I will say, it's actually more of a general rule, but especially when you are fitting yourself, and that is to use safety pins. When you are doing fittings on yourself, you're turning, you're getting in and out of this thing, you're pulling it off over your head or anything like that. If you're using straight pins, there's a greater chance of it falling out and you losing that placement that you had to do yoga pose to get into to find out if that was what needed to happen to your pattern. So by using safety pins, whether you're fitting someone else, and especially if you're fitting yourself, is definitely going to help you. There's more, there's little tips that I have using your measuring tape and things like that. And these are things that I can share more with you over time, but these are the top 3 things that I really find to be the most helpful. If you have any helpful tips, please leave a comment, or if any of these 3 that I shared here were like, oh my gosh, that's so eye-opening. I love to hear from you. I love to hear like other feedback. I really see this as a big whole community, so please let me know. That's what we have here for this week's Tricky Thursday. Remember, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification, and share this with your friends if you think they will find it helpful. I will see you next time.